This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, sponsors and producers of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida, July 23rd through 27th. This ongoing CEO series is meant to be an educational product, connecting the CEOs of the companies that will be sponsoring the Natural Resources Investment Symposium and letting you, the listeners, know more about the companies in anticipation of you using your time at the conference in a way that's much more beneficial to you. Please remember to use these interviews and the conference itself in the context of the lessons that you have learned through the Mining Investment College. Today, I'm delighted to welcome JohnMarks Staude, a friend of longstanding. John, thank you for agreeing to do this interview. Thank you, too, for your ongoing sponsorship of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Rick, great to be with you again this year and ongoingly. It's been a great partnership.
John, if you could give our investors an overview of your own background and the sort of genesis, if you will, of Riverside Resources.
You know, Riverside was founded 16 years ago. And my background, I've been in mining and mineral exploration all my career. I went to college and then did a master's degree at Harvard University and a PhD studying economic geology and ore deposits. I then worked in major companies for over a decade, big companies like Rio Tinto and BHP, doing lots of deals and working in business development. That gave me the chance in business development to understand what majors need, what partners need, and so as a prospect generator to bring that type of product to them.
Tell us a bit about, for those of my listeners who don't know, what a prospect generator does for a living. What's the prospect generator business model all about?
I think the first thing is other people's money. I think the first thing is quality projects that we generate that get other people to fund and do the exploration on. So Riverside owns a portfolio and we have other people investing in us through the projects to advance those in a joint venture type of model.
One of the things I've always enjoyed about the prospect generator is that I don't have to do all the due diligence. I don't have to hire all the geologists that review the projects. The review, if you will, is done often by the partners. Tell me something about the partners that you have traditionally had, which is to say indirectly the quality of the due diligence that's been done on your exploration work.
Rick, you know, you're exactly right, and it's so true. Having partners like Kinross Gold, Antofagasta, BHP, Cleveland Cliffs, Hochschild Mining, we've had many, many partners ongoingly, Centerra Gold, doing multiple projects with us, fully funding the work we've been doing for 16 years, 7 strategic alliances with majors. You're totally right. They've done the due diligence for the investors. If the projects weren't good, they wouldn't have invested millions of dollars into the portfolio that Riverside owns today.
I'm delighted to say that as a consequence of this third-party funding, that you have over 16 years had to issue precious little stock, which is to say that you haven't diluted away my investment in the intellectual capital at Riverside Resources through excessive dilution to fund fruitless drilling. Tell us something about the current state of the company, what your projects are, who your partners are, what your balance sheet and income statement looks at. Give us the investment proposition as it sits today.
You know, it's an excellent proposition. In Canadian dollars, we have over $8 million cash. In Canadian dollars, it's over 11 cents a share, just cash. You're right about the balance sheet. We only have 75 million shares after 16 years. Rick, even for you, you may look at lots of companies, and that would put us, I think, even a small number of companies that have been able to do that, that you took us public and you've been with us so long. Now, in terms of the proposition, we have excellent projects with major partners like BHP, major partners doing big drill programs, doing exploration for porphyry copper, doing exploration for gold, and particularly for silver as well. We also have the catalyst of projects in Ontario and British Columbia. So Riverside has a diverse portfolio of projects plus royalties. Recently, we did a deal with Fresnillo, one of the largest producers of silver in the world, and we sold our project, the Tajitos, and kept a 2% NSR. That project's moving ahead. So Riverside, in the medium term, will be a royalty producing company as well, having royalty cash flow. As well, we have other royalties, and we've dividended to our shareholders in the past and have that set up as catalyst going forward, the potential for dividend of other companies we've created. We have the potential for discovery and the potential for major companies developing projects on our balance sheet. So we're in a great position. Thanks for the question.
In addition to the Ontario and British Columbia assets, am I correct in saying that the focus of the company for the last 16 years and now continues to be Mexico? Is that accurate?
So actually it has been, and we've made a big move in the last 12 months to grow as well into Canada. And we're getting new portfolios. And I think at this conference, you'll begin to see that. And in the spring of next year, you'll see that we've rolled out new deals outside of Mexico. But in Mexico, we continue to have royalties. We continue to have projects and partners. But Mexico, as it has become recently difficult, we've been able to hunker down on solid projects and have partnerships there, but particularly grown as well in Canada. So I think for our investors that come a year later than last year, where we were to the Sprott conference or to the Rule conference here, now the Rule Investment Conference, we'll see that we have actually diversified as well from Mexico a lot into Canada also.
In a response to an earlier question, you talked about company formation and spinning out companies, in effect, a merchant banking activity. Could you talk a little bit more about the emergence of Riverside as, if you will, a hybrid merchant bank prospect generator, why you do this and how it benefits your shareholders?
Well, it's great because I'm one of the biggest shareholders. You know, I've never sold a share, but I'm actually a very nice big shareholder, and our rest of our management team as well as the shareholder. And what we do is by passing those out through a share split, not really a dividend, but it's effectively a dividend. It's not taxable in most jurisdictions. We actually share split the company, and those share splits then come to us as shareholders. Instead of share consolidations like many of the juniors do, we've been actually splitting the shares of Riverside. So as a shareholder, a catalyst would be getting additional free shares. For example, we give the free shares of Capitan Mining, and those shares came to us, and then they actually went up, doubled and tripled from there. So that's been a really good model for Riverside to pursue, this merchant bank approach.
So tell us something about what will happen in the next 12 to 18 months, which is to say either clarity around projects, answering unanswered questions that increase the market certainty with regards to your value, or transactions. Tell us what the potential catalysts are, what you're working on to increase shareholder value in the next 12 to 18 months. Things that people should talk to you about in Boca Raton.
I think three things. One thing definitely is Mexico. The transactions we're doing in Mexico. We have very good projects. We have the Union project. We have a portfolio. We have copper. We're working with major companies. The transactions that Riverside has for Mexico is unlocking that value. We own the properties. We're in a great position. So we have lots of upside. Very nice grades, good projects. We've focused over 16 years on that. A second catalyst people can visit us is about Ontario. And in Ontario, we already have hit very nice grade. We're next to Ross Beatty, Equinox Gold, some of these big mines, and we're adjacent to them, having projects that are definitely acquirable, definitely good for prospect generation for partners. And we'll definitely see in the next 12 to 18 months, drilling, as Riverside's already had some drilling on those, additional drilling for drill discovery, and really great catalysts. The third is growth. Critical metals, critical elements, rare earth elements, diversifying in British Columbia as well as with gold. And that gives us good future in 12 to 18 months with that portfolio that we're growing right now. So we're delighted to come to the Sprott conference and begin to lay these out. These are new things. This interview is the first one where we talked about this, and it's really exciting for us. This conference is so important for us going to the Rural Investor Conference.
JohnMarks, the conference is meant to be sort of the pinnacle of the educational efforts of Rural Investment Media, and it's meant to be consumed by the attendees in conjunction with the lessons in the Rural classroom, things like the royalty streaming and prospect generation courses, things like the course on interrogating mining company managements. I encourage our listeners, viewers, and subscribers to communicate directly with the company so that they can get a curated tour of the investment attributes. Which living, breathing human being at Riverside might our attendees visit, and how might they reach this person?
Please visit me. I'm one of them, and it's great. I love to be there. Also, our investor relations, Marin, is committed to being there as well. Please come to our website. That's RIVRES.com. We're active on social media. We welcome people visiting us or communicating to us. We also have an 800 number. That's 800 RIVRES 1. And we also have a direct line of 778-327-6671. We'd love to connect with you and have any conversations we can.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best possible answer. The questions are there for you to ask at Rule Investment Media, the Rule Classroom. The best person of all to answer that question is the CEO of the company, JohnMarks, who just said that he would do it. The only other thing I can do for you is call your broker. Make sure you come to the conference. Make sure you visit JohnMarks. Make sure you pester him with all those nosy questions that we're teaching you how to ask. JohnMark, thank you so much for many years on behalf of mining investors. Thank you, too, for agreeing to this interview. And thank you most of all, in the near term at least, for continuing to sponsor the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
It's a great honor. We appreciate being invited, and we love to meet with all the investors and people that have any questions. Love the questions.